Every 9 to 10 seconds, a woman is the victim of domestic violence. It's time to break the silence. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to My Healthy Mind. I'm Elizabeth Atkins, and this is my co-host, Michael Hunter. For the next 30 minutes here on My Healthy Mind, we welcome you to join us to talk about health-related issues that have been stigmatized, because talking about things like mental illness and addiction are the only way that we can sort of bring them out of the closet and get people talking and find the resources that they need to heal and recover. So, here on My Healthy Mind, we do that by showcasing guests who've overcome major problems, and they found the confidence and courage to talk about them, to get help, and to help other people heal.
Yes, and today's show, Elizabeth, is so powerful because we're talking about domestic violence. That is a subject that people really shy away from. So we're going to go at it full force today. Our guests today are going to tell some very compelling stories that'll just draw you in, have you on the edge of your seats telling the story.
Yes.
And I don't think that people realize the statistic that says women get hurt more in domestic violence than in car accidents and other injuries, you know, throughout life. So that should give us a reason to want to talk about this topic more and more so people can come out of that.
There's so much shame around it. That's why there's silence, and we're talking about it. So the shame can be dissolved, and people can take action and feel liberated to live their best life, find their power within.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk to a domestic violence survivor, and we're going to talk to one of the domestic violence champions in our area, and not just in our area, nationally.
Yes.
And they're doing some very creative things and powerful things to make sure that people can heal and come out of domestic violence. So in our next segment, we'll get a chance to meet those guests and have some very good conversation.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Mental Health Services has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan. Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery. Team Mental Health Services prides itself on going the extra mile for its members.
And it was towards the 6th court date. I finally stood up and said, I can handle this process the rest of the way. And it was all because of the motivation and encouragement I got from Team Mental Health staff.
Team Mental Health Services, because we care and you can.
One more hour burns, so scared of his return that I can't sleep tonight in this hospital life.
We have 3 beautiful children, and everything you do or say to me, they take pictures with their minds, and I want to put a stop to that.
Sometimes I have thoughts of killing you. You know that?
Go ahead. You're doing me a favor.
Alex was the only one that knew the secrets.
Boy, why don't you leave that girl alone for you mess around and get her pregnant?
Why do you have so many boyfriends?
They all treat me nice.
When they ever treated you to anything? Only time they come around here is when they want one thing.
No! No!
You eat so damn much, why can't you choke on something? You're just a fat, disgusting excuse for a kid, and I ought to smack you!
I should have died instead. They were right.
No, you have. Life is worth living.
I have every type of abuse in there.
Yeah. Verbal, physical, sexual, mental.
You name it, it's in that room.
You see,
After years of abuse, you lose yourself.
Miss Vivica. Miss Vivica.
Cause this
I know you've been through some hell and high water, but I see a turnaround right now. You will be silent no more.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. I'm Elizabeth Atkins, and this is my co-host, Michael Hunter. Metro Detroit has had some horrific cases of domestic violence. In 2007, Tara Lynn Grant was dismembered in the garage by her husband. In 2012, Jane Bashara was killed, and her husband was the culprit. But now we have a very special guest who is making efforts through his movie to bring attention to domestic violence and end it. Welcome, Pastor Marvin Miles.
So happy to be here
Thank
today.
you. Thank
happy
you.
to be here.
So we just saw the trailer to Silent No More, and you cannot watch that without feeling your stomach just churn with disgust and fear and pain. So what is your goal in making this movie?
To expose those things that are hidden. About 2.5 years ago, I was just very impressed to deal with issues of abuse. Do you not know that every 9 seconds a woman is abused? Not only that, every 10 seconds a woman is abused physically. In about 10 different countries, 55% of women and children that are abused never tell anybody. So part of the movie deals with the very fact that you are aware of. One of our stars in the movie, everybody knows her, Kim Whitley.
Yes.
She said something on set while we were out in Hollywood. She said, you know what? If you tell somebody and they don't do anything about it, keep on telling it. And that is the key. Open up your mouth, talk about it, and be silent no more.
And that's the name of the movie, Silent No More.
Yes.
And as a pastor and as a champion for this cause, have you found it easy to get people to become silent no more?
Oh my God, man. Oh, I feel something strong on this set.
Yes.
Dealing in an urban environment, you deal with certain things. And one of the things I found out through the course of being a pastor for 17 years, that I deal with issues of verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and also mental abuse can be just as devastating. And when I began to start talking about these issues, really, the audience, the atmosphere of my particular congregation changed. I started getting notes, started getting emails, started getting phone calls about, hey, I was in service today. And it was as if I was an onion, and the onion peels was just being peeled back because of issues of sexual abuse where my uncle actually raped my mom and produced me. And how do you deal with a stigma like that? Right. That you are the one, that when you show up, everybody looks and says, you're the one. Oh, and so we have literally dealt with each and every one of these cases, not just to be silent no more, but to let people know that you don't have to be stuck where you are, and that there can be hope beyond the moment of change. That very person I just talked about is now married. She's got a baby. She's doing phenomenally well because she began to speak against those things that used to speak against her.
Oh, that's so powerful. So how do you integrate faith, Pastor Miles, at your church International Gospel Center in Ecorse? Your services are so electrifying and healing. How do you integrate that into your service, faith?
Faith without works is dead. You have to give people hope beyond the moment. Instead of just glossing over, gliding over, I go into the gutter. Another incident that brings out that piece of faith is while we were filming in Hollywood, one of our stars just finished a scene, and then she said, you know, can I talk to you? I said, sure. And we went to the hallway, and she just broke down and just started bawling, started crying. I mean, just uncontrollably. And she said, what I just did is what I've been through. Oh, wow. You follow me? And you gave me the faith in this moment, filming on a set, that actually brought her out to be silent no more. She said, I never told anybody. And this is really a superstar. She won the African Oscars and just over, 50 films. And she's a part of this project now to talk about those things.
And are you getting support from other entertainment personalities or anything like that for that same message?
Absolutely. I mean, Herman Moore, played for Detroit Lions, is a part of our Silent No More Summit. And so he is one of the instruments that God is really using to shed light on what's going on as it relates to domestic violence.
Awesome. And we're going to pick the conversation back up after this break.
One more hour burns, so scared of his return that I can't sleep tonight. In this hospital life,
We have 3 beautiful children, and everything you do or say to me, they take pictures with their minds, and I want to put a stop to that.
Sometimes I have thoughts of killing you. You know that?
Go ahead. You're doing me a favor.
Alex was the only one that knew the secrets.
Boy, why don't you leave that girl alone for you mess around and get her pregnant?
Why do you have so many boyfriends?
They all treat me nice.
When they ever treated you to anything? Only time they come around here is when they want one thing.
No! No!
You eat so damn much, why can't you choke on something? You're just a fat, disgusting excuse for a kid, and I ought to smack you!
I should have died instead. They were right.
No, you have. Life is worth living.
I have every type of abuse in there.
Yeah. Verbal, physical, sexual, mental.
You name it, it's in that room.
You see, after years of abuse, you lose yourself.
Miss Vivica. Miss Vivica.
Cause this time, it's the last time. I know that my eyes have seen too much. This nightmare is not fair, and I've had enough. You break me. Did you say you're sorry? You call this love, but this time your lies are not enough. This time.
I know you've been through some hell and high water, but I see a turnaround right now. You will be silent no more.
The people here actually care about you and your future and what you become after you graduate high school.
Loyola's mission is to turn out good young men.
Loyola is a place to help us grow.
A smaller setting and more one-on-one.
Give you that one-on-one attention that you don't normally get.
Making sure that the student is taken care of spiritually, educationally, and physically.
I focus more at this school than I did all my other schools. by the time they get to about the 10th or 11th grade, they're basically bonded like brothers.
If you're looking for a brotherly love or someone to lean on or get in touch with and talk to personally, this school is the perfect place to go.
We're back with filmmaker and pastor Marvin Miles and our special guest Beverly Wargela, a clinical therapist here at Team Wellness Center who has a powerful survival story about her experience with domestic violence. Beverly, can you tell us your story?
Yes, Liz. Basically, I met a gentleman who I fell immensely in love with. We married. Near the end of the marriage, he became very abusive, physically, sexually, and emotionally. And it was pure hell. He would lock me in the room. He would take the catalytic converter off the car. He was demanding, as it relates to the specific clothing that I would wear. He demanded to know my whereabouts. He even would call on my job and make threats as it relates to not coming home due to me not following a specific command that he had for me.
So how did you escape from that, and how did that tear on your soul?
Well, basically, it was a process that was not done overnight. When you get along with yourself, me, myself, and I, you can't fool, you can't deny any longer. And I looked at myself one day in the mirror and I concluded that, Beverly, you can't live like this any longer. So I began to take the needed steps to sever the ties, which were, it was very difficult.
And you said you were there 3 years into the marriage, three bad years?
Yes, the last 3 years of my marriage.
And so for 3 years, Pastor, a person has been in this situation for 3 years, what would you ask her when she came to see you?
Who did you tell?
Pastor, I told no one.
Why not? Because somebody's viewing out there right now. Why not? This is very important.
Well, domestic violence has three best friends. Shame, guilt, and fear.
Wow.
But there's a saying that time changes all things.
That's right.
The wheel of change began to turn in my direction. And it brought me to a place of realizing that this is not love, because love does not hurt.
That's right.
Love does not control.
That's right.
And love does not even seek its own way.
You know what, Beverly? Very important scripture in the Bible. Psalms 34:6 said, this poor man cried, and the Lord delivered him out of all of his problems. That means at a point of opening up your mouth, screaming, hollering, moaning, is when peace comes. When you can speak against those things that were speaking against you, that's where change really happens. Because really, truly controlling, abusive people want to keep you silent.
Yes.
And that's why it's important to be silent no more.
You know, when the wheel of change did make a stop in my life, in my spiritual man, I received an affirmation to sustain me as I was navigating through the process of severing the ties completely, that this now is not your always.
Wow. That's
and
powerful.
I held on to that.
That's
and
right.
that got me to where I am today.
That's great.
That is so powerful. It gives me chills. I think so many people can relate. I've suffered from verbal abuse, and it wasn't until I opened my mouth and said, I refuse to accept this.
That's right.
Something clicked inside of me, and I've never felt more powerful.
That's right.
And then for me, I watched my mom become a victim of domestic violence, and I vowed that I would never have that same experience. Like, I would never be that person that my father was. And at the same time, I would tell my sisters and any woman that would listen, as soon as it happens, it's time to go. Absolutely. It's time to go.
Right. So now we have your film, Silent No More, that's teaching people to open their mouths and don't be silent anymore. Pastor Miles, where and when can we see your movie?
Elizabeth, not just the movie is coming out, but we're having a Silent No More Summit. Oh my God. We're dealing with some issues that relates to sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, and also that whole domestic issues as it relates to abuse on June the 19th at 6 p.m. at the International Gospel Center, the Silent No More Summit. And we're going to talk about some issues just like Beverly, and we're going to deal with the issues of pre, in it, and post. How to avoid abuse, even in our children. If you in it, how to get out of it, and the healing that comes at the end. June the 19th. You cannot miss this.
We'll put the information on our website for myhealthymind.com so people can go there.
Thank you guys for being here. We're going to have you back on our show, even as a therapist and a nurse. Thank you for showing up, Pastor. We appreciate you.
Glad to be here.
And thank you for tuning in to My Healthy Mind.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Mental Health Services has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan. Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery. Team Mental Health Services prides itself on going the extra mile for its members.
And it was towards the 6th court date. I finally stood up and said, I can handle this process the rest of the way. And it was all because of the motivation and encouragement I got from Team Mental Health staff.
Team Mental Health Services, because we care and you can.
Do people here actually care about you and your future and what you become after you graduate high school?
Loyola's mission is to turn out good young men.
Loyola is a place to help us grow.
A smaller setting and more one-on-one.
Give you that one-on-one attention that you don't normally get.
Making sure that the student is taken care of spiritually, educationally, and physically.
I focus more at this school than I did all my other schools.
By the time they get to about the 10th or 11th grade, they're basically bonded like brothers.
If you're looking for a brotherly love or someone to lean on or get in touch with and talk to personally, this school is the perfect place to go.
One more hour burns, so scared of his return that I can't sleep tonight. In this hospital life.
We have 3 beautiful children, and everything you do or say to me, they take pictures with their minds, and I want to put a stop to that.
Sometimes I have thoughts of killing you. You know that?
Go ahead. You're doing me a favor. Alex was the only one that knew the secrets.
Boy, why don't you leave that girl alone for you mess around and get her pregnant?
Why do you have so many boyfriends? They all treat me nice.
When they ever treated you to anything? Only time they come around here is when they want one thing.
No! No! You eat so damn much, why can't you choke on something? You're just a fat, disgusting excuse for a kid, and I ought to smack you!
I should have died instead. You were right.
No, you have. Life is worth living.
I have every type of abuse in there.
Yeah. Verbal, physical, sexual, mental.
You name it, it's in that room.
You see, after years of abuse, you lose yourself.
Miss Vivica. Miss Vivica.
Cause this time, it's the last time. I know that my eyes have seen too much. This nightmare, it's not fair, and I've had enough. You broke me. Did you say you're sorry? You call this love, but this time your lies are not enough. This time.
I know you've been through some hell and high water, but I see a turnaround right now. You will be silent no more.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. Michael, this show was so powerful because Pastor Marvin Miles talked about how his movie Silent No More is inspiring people to open up and talk about their domestic abuse. And then Beverly Wardula, the clinical therapist here at Team Wellness Center, shared her domestic violence survival story. And she said domestic violence has 3 best friends: fear, shame, and guilt.
I know, and isn't that just so powerful? Because fear, I understand. You don't want to tell someone because you're afraid of the repercussions.
Right.
But the guilt, I was really moved by that because I didn't understand prior to this that people would feel guilty, like as if they were the one who had done something wrong or they were the cause of the violence against them. And that really moved me. And I'm glad that there's an outlet like Pastor Miles is doing with the Domestic Violence Summit.
Right.
And what they've done with this movie just blows my mind.
Yes, because you can't watch the trailer. Imagine watching the entire feature film and seeing each of those stories that we see for a moment in the trailer being fleshed out. It's just gut-wrenching.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm really glad that people can watch this show, watch that trailer, watch the actual movie, and actually attend the summit and get something out of it and really come to a point where they decide, I will be silent no longer.
Right.
I'm going to stand up for myself, stand up for others.
Yes.
It's
and
great.
Having suffered from verbal abuse, the moment that something clicks inside of yourself, I'm speaking from experience, you become so empowered. It's just a magical process that, it comes from
really
talking.
A good show.
It
Very
was.
good show. Thank you guys for tuning in to My Healthy Mind. Remember to contact us on our Facebook page. Remember to contact us on Twitter and our website. And we'll see you next time.